Good day, my beautiful little who heads. Today we're going to do something a little different. I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange and fantastic journey. Today, we're going to talk about Doctor Who. Yep. Alright, now, there's a lot to cover here, so I'm going to try and make this quick. I already, this is like the third take I've done of this, and I keep running out of time on the camera, so, alright. The Doctor is a Time Lord, Gallifrey. Now, right off the bat, not all Gallifreyans are Time Lords. Time Lord is a classification, it's a distinction. The Doctor graduated from the Time Lord Academy, therefore, he is a Time Lord. Females who graduate from the Time Lord Academy are Time Ladies. Now, when a Gallifreyan graduates from the Time Lord Academy, he chooses a title, and that title is the name by which he is known by. Therefore, everybody's always asking, what's the Doctor's name? That is his name. His name is the Doctor. Now, there's a name he was given at birth, obviously. But there's only one person allowed to know that name, and that is the woman the Doctor marries. So, you know, if you're saying stuff like, you know, but what's his name? That is his name. So, the Doctor chose the name the Doctor because he wanted to help people. Alright, so, another thing we're going to talk about right now is the regeneration. A Time Lord, or a Gallifreyan, is not all of the Gallifreyans, by the way, but I'm not getting into that, that's too nerdy. So we'll stick with Time Lord. The Time Lord runs on a binary cardio system, for one, which means it's 2 hearts, so he's very hard to kill. They also have a deep psychic connection with their body. And the Doctor has been known to do things like cure himself from illnesses by going into a self-induced trance. But what this also does is creates a renewal, so to speak, as it was originally called, of the cellular system, right? If the body dies or becomes too physically damaged, the cells will heal themselves. They will rebuild themselves. Now, there's only enough energy in a Time Lord's body for this to happen 12 times. So, the actors who have played the Doctor during these 12 regenerations are, in order, William Hartnell, Patrick Thornton, one of my personal favorites, Jon Pertwee, followed by the man most people who are long-standing fans of the Doctor. We call ourselves Whovians, by the way. Most Whovians consider the 4th actor to play the Doctor the definitive Doctor. One, because he held the role longer than anyone else, and 2, just because he did such an amazing job that so much of what the Doctor is, who the Doctor is, you know, kind of comes from number 4, and that's Tom Baker. Tom Baker was followed by Peter Davidson, then Colin Baker, who's no relation to Tom Baker, and then Sylvester McCoy. Then the series kind of went on hiatus, so to speak. Now, technically, Doctor Who has been around for 50 years, but there's about a 20-year gap in its showings. After Sylvester McCoy, the show stopped. There were plans to bring it back. There was talk of an animated series. An actor at one point around 1988, 1989, even signed a contract to play the Doctor in the next live-action series, but that never happened. And there wasn't anything really all the way up until 1996, which was, as an American, my first real introduction to Doctor Who. Now, as a sci-fi fan, I had heard a lot about Doctor Who, but once again, as an American, that wasn't available to me, especially growing up in the late 80s and early 90s. Now, in 1996, the BBC did a joint production with Fox here in America to try and revive Doctor Who here in America. And that resulted in a television movie where we saw Sylvester McCoy's Doctor regenerate into my Doctor, Paul McGann, 8, who I wish we could get more screen time with. I really love his portrayal of the Doctor, you know. But unfortunately, there's really only 2 examples of him in live action. He was the Doctor from 1996 all the way up until now, even in a series of audio dramas produced by Big Fish Productions, which I've only heard a handful of, but they are amazing. He was recently brought back into the fold in the 6-minute webisode, The Night of the Doctor, which is the prequel to the 50th anniversary, The Day of the Doctor, which brings me to a bit of a contention. Not personal contention, but contention with the rules, and a bit of confusion. Now, as I said, a Time Lord's has enough energy within their body for 12 cellular regenerations. So that's 12 incarnations. And after 8, we get a regeneration that's really not a regeneration, because it was brought upon by magic. The Sisterhood of Karn, who are, have a long-standing relationship with the Time Lords. I'm not going to get too deep into this because, like I said, I've done this a couple of times already. They're very similar to the Time Lords. They are the keepers of the Flame of Life, which is what brings about this non-regeneration regeneration. And that brings us to the War Doctor, who was the Doctor that wasn't the Doctor. The War Doctor was when the Doctor broke his oath to help people and became a soldier because it was needed of him for the great time. But it was not an actual regeneration. So then, after the War Doctor, he regenerates into 9. And that brings us to what the fans call New Who. And that's the new series from 2005. Now, I want to point out, that means that the show was not on the air. No episodes were made at all between 1986, I believe it was, all the way up to 2005. So, after the War Doctor, we get to 9, and that is Christopher Eccleston, followed by, if Tom Baker is the definitive Doctor, if Tom Baker is number 1, this next guy is hands down number 2, and a lot of people would argue that he's really number 1, and that is David Tennant. And he's really the one that made the new series work. Christopher Eccleston did a great job, and he's also a big fan favorite. But out of the new show, David Tennant, hands down, has been the best so far, and one of the best Doctors of all time. Out of all of these great men who have played the part. But sadly, everyone's time must come, and David Tennant had to leave the role, and he was succeeded by Matt Smith, who everyone calls 11, but technically he's 12, because there was a point during David Tennant's run where he was supposed to regenerate, but he concentrated all his regeneration energy into keeping the same face. In the Day of the Doctor, or the Time of the Doctor, sorry, Matt Smith's final episode, he describes it as having vanity issues. But that was supposed to be the end with Matt Smith. But, of course, the show is at a high point right now, especially with the 50th anniversary having just happened. And so they couldn't end it there. I mean, they could have, and it would have been a great end. It would have been a marvelous end if they had ended it there. The way they did it, nobody would have been disappointed. Nobody would have been upset. Yeah, people would have wanted more, but it would have been a good end. But no, it did not end there. Due to storyline reasons, which I will not get into because it's way too fucking long, the Time Lords grant the Doctor a new regeneration cycle. So now we have our current Doctor, who we call 12, but is really 13 or 1.2. I don't know. There's a question whether or not the new regeneration cycle is a full 12 regenerations, or just regenerated Matt Smith one more time into Peter Capaldi. Now, a lot of people are saying that Peter Capaldi is too old to play the Doctor. That is sheer fucking stupidity. The first 4 actors to play, well, first 3 actors, I should say, to play the Doctors were met well into their late 40s and 50s, you know? Tom Baker was like 44, 45, somewhere around the middle age. But, you know, up until David Tennant and Matt Smith, the youngest guy to play the Doctor was Peter Davison, and he was like in his mid to late 30s. But, I'm getting off on a tangent here. This, by the way, is my companion for today. This is Clara, who is named after Matt Smith's and Peter Capaldi's, and the current of the Doctor's companions, Clara Oswald, or Clara Osmond Oswald. You know, it's a bit of a tricky thing with her name. But that brings me around to talking about the companions. Shit. There we go. Alright. So, the doctor always has somebody he travels with. Now, it has been recently agreed upon that those people shall be called companions, but in the past, they have also been called the doctor's associates. Now, I'm not going to get into all of them because there's something like 30 odd. And I don't even know all their fucking names. Okay? But, usually it's a girl. Sometimes it's a girl and a guy. And, the doctor has even been known to travel with sometimes up to 3 or 4 people. Other times, he'll only have a companion for one series or one episode. I have to stop for a moment because I just said something that brings up an issue that needs to be talked about. Classic era Who was not like it is today. It was not singular episode stories. It was half-hour episodes, well, actually more, rounding off about 22 minutes or so, long episodes, where the storyline was broken up into a 4 or sometimes even 6-part series, where every episode ended in a cliffhanger. It was kind of akin to the old serials of the 30s and 40s that they'd show in the movies. Excuse me. So, sometimes the doctor would only have a companion for one series, alongside his regular companion. Or sometimes in between companions, there would be somebody who helped out the doctor on this one particular adventure he was on. So there's a lot of companions. So I'm not really going to go into them entirely. Just know that it's usually the doctor and a young girl. Now, up until the series revival, that was always more of a fatherly, grandfatherly type relationship, where it was the doctor looking out for and educating the young girl. Because, you have to remember, Doctor Who was originally intended to be an educational show for children. The whole idea of traveling through space and time was to have each episode teach children something about history and science. And any other kind of little educational stuff they might fit in there. That's why in the original series with William Hartnell, you see stuff like, he meets the Aztecs, Marco Polo, Genghis Khan, stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff with, even up to current times, with Matt Smith's doctor having met Vincent van Gogh, and Tennant's doctor meeting Charles Dickens, stuff like that. The doctor has a long-standing theme of meeting real historical characters, real people from history. And so, shit, I lost my train of thought. companions. Okay, yeah. So the point of the companions, and I'm sorry if there's a jump there in the narrative. I literally forgot where I was going. There's so much shit. The point of the companions is to be a surrogate for us, the viewers. They are there to give the doctor a reason to explain things out loud. They are there to ask the questions that we're intended to ask as the viewer. And they're also there to generally be a sidekick and help out the doctor. Going back to the topic of the doctor, Peter Capaldi, being too old. Originally, another function of the companions, from intention, was to be the active ones, because the doctor was an older man. You know, the idea was the doctor is this frail older man, and also he's a pacifist. So the point of the companions were to be the active ones. They were going to be the ones to fight the bad guys while the doctor figured out the plan. And so, you know, once again, people saying Peter Capaldi is too old to be the doctor is just fucking retarded, if you know anything about Doctor Who. By the way, the people saying this, yeah, they're fans of the show, but they're not real Whovians, so to speak. They don't watch classic era Who. They only know the new series. And yeah, okay, that's fine. But if you're gonna only watch the new stuff, don't make criticisms like you know what you're talking about, because there's a whole history of things that you have no idea about. And if you're watching this and you have only watched the new series, you're seriously robbing yourself of some really awesome storytelling. Now, addressing the old series, there's a lot of stigmatism against the special effects, and you got to remember, this was the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. They had a low budget for a TV series, and budgetary reasons is actually one of the reasons why the show stopped being produced in 1986. So yeah, the special effects are kind of cheesy, but it's part of the charm. It's like watching a B slasher film, you know, with all the fake blood splashing all over the fucking place and people ripping out their intestines that look like sausage links and shit like that. You know, Evil Dead, there's a scene where the fucking eyeball goes shooting across the room into a girl's mouth. If you actually look, you can see the stick underneath the eyeball as it travels across the screen. People nowadays have way too high a standard for special effects. And practical special effects, even low-budget ones, aren't appreciated enough. And there is a certain charm to cheesy, low-budget effects. So I've talked about the Doctor, I've talked about his companions. Now, it's only right I talk a little bit about some of the Doctor's foes. Right off the bat, we gotta talk about the Master. I'm not gonna go into too much depth because he's got almost as long a history as the Doctor. The Master is the Doctor's arch nemesis. He is actually the Doctor's best friend since boyhood. They grew up together, they went to the Time Lord Academy together, and they originally started out with the same intentions. Think Professor X and Magneto. You know? They were the best of friends, and still, in a lot of ways, are good friends, you know? But they've grown apart, you know? And like the Doctor chose his name, the Doctor, because he wanted to help people, the Master chose his name because he wanted to control people. And I think that's really where things started to go wrong for them as a friendship. On a side note, Master's latest regeneration is Missy, who I have to say I fucking love Michelle Gomez as Missy. The character is so fun, so vibrant, but it doesn't feel like the Master. Same thing, I forget the actor's name, but the guy that played John Saxon, the previous Master, he was fun, yeah, but it didn't feel like the Master. And another issue I have with Missy is, okay, the Master wanted to control people. He chose the name the Master. With the name like the Master, it forces people into submission. They have to call him Master. That automatically, to an extent, makes them beneath him. You lose that as Missy. Even if she's calling herself the Mistress, there's still that submission factor. Completely gone with Missy. But that's just one of